Hi, I'm Miss Stacy Ernvall. I'm the principal at Gasp Elementary. I was brought in at the beginning of the turnaround 3 years ago, and I've grown up most of my life in Chicago, and I'm here supporting the referendum, and I'm excited to get to talk to you more about what this looks like.
Good morning, I'm Miss Jang, and I am the first grade teacher at Gasp Elementary, and I have been with the Gasp family for around 10 years. And I'm one of the few teachers that have been around since before the turnaround.
Hi, my name is Angelica Moreno, and I am currently the president of the Parent-Teacher Association here at GASP. And I have been for the last 4 years, before and after the turnaround. I had one of my kids graduate from GASP 2 years ago and has now moved on to high school, and I currently still have one in the 6th grade, moving on to graduation pretty soon. Over the last 4 years of me being president of the PTA here at GASP, I've seen a lot of changes, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the changes that come and hoping that my 6th grader gets to see some of the great things that we hope to come to GASP over the next few years.
My name is Greg Romero. I'm an alderman for West Lawndale. I'm here representing GASP School and the referendum to change the policy regarding funding for that school. The referendum would raise taxes by a very small margin, by 0.01% on property taxes. This money would go to hiring better teachers, increasing salaries to attract teachers who have master's degrees and 5 years of experience. It would go to hiring more teachers, and it would go to reducing class sizes by increasing paraprofessional hiring. This is important because I've lived in West Lawndale all my life. I've gone through schooling there, and I've seen that school degrade into apartheid conditions. This needs to change. With the turnaround and increased funding, we can change that school to a level 1 school, and we can make sure that students all have equitable access to education. Now you will see a panel where me and my team who designed the referendum will answer questions from the community.
And I'm wondering, if we're a level 2 school and our gains have been sufficient, why do we need additional staff?
So before we begin, I just want to thank you all for coming once again. I want to thank you for taking time out to enter the conversation with us to better our school. And so thank you for this first question that we will address. I'd like to say something, and then we'll open it up and let the rest of the panel answer how they choose to answer. So as far as I'm concerned as the principal, we have indeed made really great gains the first 2 years. And now from a statistical or a data perspective, we're starting to notice that our kids are leveling off and they're becoming stagnant in certain areas. And so therefore we want to continue to push and to facilitate higher order thinking and deeper level context questions so that our students can indeed reach a cognitive level that's appropriate for them. And so why settle for good when we can go to great? And so therefore we're really looking forward to and really interested in developing as a school so that we can indeed reach to be a level 1 and not just staying okay at level 2.
With the move of the Common Core standards, I feel like all teachers, and even I as a veteran teacher, we need the support to implement these new standards throughout our classrooms.
And you know what, on that same point, like being a mother of a 6th grader that's moving on to 7th grade next year, ready to take that test that really determines how he will be filtered into the high schools of Chicago public schools, I'm really concerned with that idea that when he takes this test, will he be competitive amongst the other students that are at that level 1 grammar schools or elementary schools? So I definitely feel like there is a need and an amount of preparation that our teachers need to be able to make them competitive students amongst the rest of CPS schools.
And the fact of the matter is that we need to always strive for excellence. We live in a democratic society where every student is entitled to a high quality education. Until we can demand and promise these students a high quality education from a level 1 school, until we are the best school in the entire nation, and even then we still need to strive for excellence.
Next question.
Good afternoon, board. I have some serious concerns today, board, regarding the plan that you guys are putting in place at our schools. I have one question, board. You mentioned that the data is showing students' growth to be stagnant. Can you talk more about what that does look like?
Go ahead and take a look at this data. One thing you'll notice in this data is you notice that at the beginning there's 3 different lines. So the first line is showing our school, just our school scores. Another line, the green line, you'll notice is CPS, and then the third line you'll notice is another state standard that we're matching ourselves up against too. And so you'll notice that the thick blue line is our school, and you'll notice that we start off at 17%. So from that year where we started 17%, you'll notice that we've made dramatic increase all the way up to potentially being close to 55% of students meeting and exceeding the normal state standards. And so at the end there, in the last 2 years, you'll see that we've dropped off from about 54, 55% down to 50.4%. So this is one piece of data that gives you just an idea or a glimpse into what we're looking at when we talk about our students being stagnant or not being challenged or pushed to the capacity that they could be. So even if we just look at the point that we are right now currently at 50.4%, that's a decent number. So 50.4% of our students are meeting or exceeding state standards. But then what's happening with the other 50.6%? That's the question. And that's really what we're trying to address with this referendum.
So in my own classroom, I struggle to provide individualized instruction for every student I have. So my philosophy is that each student should receive equitable instruction, and with the limited time I have and the specialization and limited specialization in special education, with the number of students in my classroom, I don't feel that I have the resources or training to fully meet their needs.
Well, and to tag on to that is, as a principal, it's really hard for us to hire adequate special ed personnel to support our staff. So currently, the turnover rate for special ed teachers and parapros and support is pretty enormous as far as even just across the board with CPS and with AUSL schools in general. And so, that's part of it is developing these resources that can support our teachers without necessarily having the personnel staff, even though obviously we'd love to have them and it's necessary to have them in the building. But what happens if that's not always the case?
And from a policy standpoint, what we're looking at right now is not a problem with achievement. What we're looking at is a problem with opportunity. Our students, they need to have what this referendum will provide. Increased number of teachers, smaller class sizes, larger numbers of support staff who will not turn over because of the fact that we're going to offer competitive salaries and benefits. This will allow more students to get small group instruction, more time for individual instruction, and it'll keep them competitive for a global economy where stagnation is not something that's going to be possible.
Next question or follow-up question.
I've lived in this community for 10 years, and what I'm trying to understand is why you need to raise taxes to get the job done. Why can't you just reallocate all the funding you already get?
The structural factors and policies that we're discussing here, the issue comes down to quantitative versus qualitative. We could talk about the example of California, which took a very quantitative approach. They allowed thousands of cheap teachers on emergency credentials into their schools, and they removed barriers to education for these teachers. They were wholly ineffective. They had a high turnaround rate, and there's a great link between the schools' slashing of education and their increased prison population and their schools not being effective and being on a downward decline. What we want to do is hire more teachers, hire better teachers, and make sure that these teachers have access to support personnel and ongoing professional development to ensure that each student is getting the individual attention they need from a high-quality professional.
And just to clarify with that, we're not necessarily looking to get rid of all of our teachers, but to develop a system where our teachers feel supported and feel developed so that they can meet, you know, what Greg just implicated.
You know, and I think the human aspect of what we're talking about is not about necessarily bringing in new teachers versus I'm a parent and I'm concerned about my student and I want to be confident that there's a highly trained teacher within their classroom to service my student. And I think what it comes down to in many cases is when I've looked at the other PTA board members and I've talked to other presidents in different schools, they've been able to address the issues at their school, and we found that in many cases it's about developing our teachers so that they are able to meet the needs of all of our kids in the classroom. So I think that's definitely the point that we're pushing at is development versus let's just bring in some new teachers and staff to support the students. Well, we can do that with one personnel if they have the resources available to them to provide for their students.
And going off of that, in my own experiences, one way I've seen work but not have that much time for was content cluster meetings where the teachers had time to collaborate creatively with grade level partners or content partners so that all students, regardless of what teacher can be reached with a combined list of strategies developed by multiple teachers.
And I think just across the board, I think it's really important to remember that many of you know me as the principal or Miss Jang as, you know, maybe your student was in her class and I know you, and the reality is that at the end of the day, it is a budget conversation as well, right? So this is the second session, and we're planning on having a few more, but we can't just hire in and work on a one-on-one basis, which would ultimately be really nice, right? But that we have to think from a strategic perspective too, and that budget matters, and that's always a case that plays into, you know, the conversation we're here having today.
My question is, what kind of school will GAS become after this referendum?
The alternative policy configurations we're looking at for funding means that funding will have to be spent equitably on instruction, on hiring more teachers, on making sure the teachers are highly qualified, and on making sure that teachers have access to ongoing professional development that's effective at improving their practice. This will be able to better serve our students.
And as a member of the PTA and someone that lives in the community, I think it's definitely in our best interest to be supportive of what our school and our aldermen are intending to do in a sense to still transform our classrooms and our children's experience in our classrooms. So as a community member, I think we definitely need to be in a position to support our school in the referendum that they need to pass, but then also taking a role at making sure that we keep them accountable for the money that is being spent within the classroom and for our teachers, so that we can have that security of knowing that the money that we are putting forth to support our school is being used in its most proper and effective manner.
So, as a result of the referendum, I will be provided with teacher development on standards and instruction that will allow me to provide a more rigorous curriculum where my students will be provided with the resources and the instruction that will prepare them to be competitive in a 21st century classroom.
Well, and the reality I think that you guys are getting at is that we're all on the same team. We're all working to better our school for the benefit of our students, and therefore us being able to do this and in passing the referendum, this is going to allow us to control class sizes so that, you know, students are being able to get that one-on-one or that small group need that is so important in the classroom, and then our teachers are going to be able to feel supported in ways that they potentially haven't felt yet thus far.
And for the structural configuration of the school itself, we want the school to be modeled off of successful models that we've seen abroad, such as in Finland or South Korea, where teachers have a lot of time to collaborate with each other and form best practice lessons and curriculum, where teachers are able to create a family environment and tailor instruction to each individual student with design-based projects, higher order thinking skills, and make sure that they have the resources to support them in doing that.
So we are going to take a short break, so go ahead and take 5 minutes. There's refreshments in the back in the bathroom. And just a reminder, this is session 2 of a 4-part session where we're going to be talking about the referendum and discussing what this looks like before we actually vote on it. And so we again want to thank you for being a part of the discussion and really working together as a family, as a community, to see how we can better both our school and our community. So go ahead and take 5 minutes, and then we'll be back to continue the discussion. Thank you.